Hello, everybody. I'm going to give you kind of um, a quick little lesson on something that happens very often in Scholastic chess. It happened to me when I played Scholastic chess all the time, and I got a lot of wins with it. It's something that's very easy. So let's say that you've heard before about people saying, is copying good? And I don't like to use the word copy. I say sometimes it's good to do the same thing as your opponent, and sometimes it isn't. It depends on the position. But let's say you're sitting in front of an opponent who kind of looks like, they're confident, but they don't really know what they're doing. They are maybe too confident. So what you could do is just play normal chess, of course, but beware that they might try to copy you. And here's one of the most common ways people copy. Pawn e4 if you're white, pawn to e5, you bring your knight out, very common thing, threatening the pawn. And we know that there's a lot of good ways to guard that pawn. You can play knight c6, you can play pawn to, oops, can't do that, no, that's impossible. You could play pawn to d6, or you could even, well, those are the two main ways. But you could also do the same thing as white. Now, that is called the Petrov defense, also known as the Russian defense, and there's nothing wrong with that. Here, you can take the pawn. Now, a lot of Scholastic players seem to love to play knight c3, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that move. But I like taking the pawn because it gives your opponent a chance to mess up with copying. If they take back, they've already pretty much lost the game. All you have to do is play this move. Well, let's see if you can guess it. What is the best move here for white? Stop the video. Okay, if you chose queen e2, you were correct. You're threatening the knight. And now they can't do the same thing as you because you take the knight and they can't really take back. So what can they do? Well, what they could do is once you threaten their knight, they could move it back, and that's what most of the time people do. And trust me, if they do that, you're going to feel like this guy here. You're going to feel like Magnus Carlsen. But of course, you have to know the right move, and you get a discovery check once you move that knight. So where is the best spot to put the knight? And realize when you move this white knight, you'll be checking the king. Stop the video and come back. Okay. If you said knight takes f7, you weren't correct because it is threatening the queen, but they'll take the knight to get away. They'll just take that. So that's not quite the correct move. But what is the correct move? Well, you play knight to c6 check. You're checking just like before, but the king cannot move and take the knight. They have to block this check. Now, no matter how they block it, even if they block with the queen, you're going to win the queen. And if they block with instead of the queen, they block with the bishop, you'll just win the queen that way. So that is a pretty awesome way to start the game. So let's look at that one more time. And let's say you play here and they do this. You play the knight out and they do the Petrov. And again, this happens all the time in Scholastic chess. You take, and let's say they take. You bring the queen here. What if they say, uh-oh, I'm not going to move the knight. I'm going to protect it. Well, that's real easy. All you do is threaten it, and they have to move it or their knight will die. So, pretty easy. Now, the last thing I want to look at is what is the correct thing to do with black if you're in that kind of position. Okay, well, e4, e5, knight comes out, knight f6, knight takes pawn. The correct thing, and there's a few different things that are okay, but the main line is just to move the knight. You will have to move your knight back, and then they take the pawn. Queen to e2, your queen to e2 will not work this time. Because why? This is your last question. What is a good move for black now? And I'll turn it around so you can see it. What should black do to get out of this pin that they have? This pin. All right? If you chose queen e7, you were correct. And now this is more of an even game. All right, guys, I hope this helped you in your games because this is something you're going to see a lot, and we'll see you next time.